Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Life Show with Musart. Today we have Siawash Zahmat, who is a high performance coach and the co-founder of Muslim Academy. He's here to talk about his journey from moving to Holland and then migrating to London. Hope I said it right. Yeah, migrating to London, and here's his journey now. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine. Thank you for having me here.
No, it's a pleasure to have you. And after having a phone conversation with you, mashallah, you've been through so much. And it feels like you've done everything on your own, basically. Do you want to elaborate on your journey of how you started with your life in Afghanistan and moving to Holland?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Afghanistan, and I was born in the middle of the war. So
what was going? Was that the?
yeah, it's the war with the Russians.
Oh, okay.
So I was only a few years old when we actually moved out. We were amongst a few privileged.
So you had to leave the country because of the situation?
Yeah, and my dad was quite influential, so we were able to get out, and obviously my parents had to give up everything, so we were able to go to the Netherlands, to Holland.
How old were you at the time?
I was about three or four.
Do you remember everything that was
I
happening?
only have a few flashbacks, and those are not pleasant flashbacks. Sounds of rockets and just gunfire, and so yeah, the memories are not very good, but alhamdulillah, it's a blessing to actually be able to move to Holland and have an opportunity to actually live a normal life. So we flew as refugees. We came in a refugee center in Holland, and from there we slowly built up our life.
And how many siblings are you?
I got two older brothers, one younger brother, and one younger sister. So I'm the middle one.
Oh, you're the middle child. Do you
Yeah.
have middle child syndrome?
I'm not aware of that. So.
Okay. Well, so you obviously learned the language and everything when you were 3, and how was it? Was it like so you are more of a Dutch speaker then, obviously, because
Yeah. So growing up in Holland, to be honest, I was fortunate because I came there at a very young age. So my brothers were struggling a bit more, getting into school and learning the language.
because they were older, isn't it?
Yeah, they were a bit older. So for me, the journey was quite normal. I went to primary school, went to secondary school, learned the language. And one thing in Holland is if you learn like so many languages. We learned English from a young age. We studied German for 6 years,
Wow.
Spanish I studied for 4 years, French for 6 years.
Wow.
So they fill you up with languages.
Wow. So you fluent in all these languages?
I'm not fluent in all languages. I'm fluent in Dutch, English, Farsi.
Okay.
It's my mother language.
So how did you hang on to Farsi when you were so little and you left the country, and so you can read and write Farsi as well and speak it?
I'm not able to really read it, but speaking with my parents and just quite basic, to be honest. I won't be able to communicate on a very academic level.
Okay. So tell me a bit more then. So what happened as you were growing up?
Well, as you can imagine, with two older brothers, it was always, for me, I always had that feeling to prove myself, But I was always like, I don't know,
That's middle child syndrome.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was waiting for you to come along and say it.
okay.
Okay, carry on.
So one thing that was really odd, and I didn't really understand it at that time, is basically as I grew up, I was very driven in school. I had emotional problems.
Okay.
And it wasn't like the rest in my family didn't really have this. So I could just in a moment snap, and I would get super angry, and I was uncontrollable.
Why do you think
So I
that
used to get in fights with my brothers, in fights with other people, and this obviously, throughout my childhood, kept repeating, and it was something that I didn't really know how to control, and it's happened actually all the way up to the age of 18. So, and in my teenage years, it was less and less, but it was happening again and again. So and because of this, like, it was very strange. It was like I almost had like two personalities, because I was very shy, very, hardworking in school. But at the same time, I didn't have many friends. I wasn't really, I tried to fit in, but I was different. But what happened, at the age of, our parents always tell us, like, be careful who you hang out with. But at the age of 16, I started hanging out with guys that were, into drugs, and I kind of fitted in because I just started copying them.
Did you want to just impress the crowd, or is that because they took you in? What was it, do you think?
Yeah, looking back at it, I think it's just really being part of something. It wasn't like you see in the movies like a gang or something. It was just normal kids that were going to A levels, and in Holland, it's very common, but still it was uncommon for our family. So I got into that, and obviously through that, it started as just doing it for fun, but then it became more often. It became repeatedly and repeatedly, and I went from really one of the top students. I went to missing classes, all the way up to like dropping out at the age of 18.
What did your parents say about this?
It was very difficult for my parents because they didn't know really how to deal with it.
So were you answering back to them as well? Were you angry with them as well all the time, or?
Well, what was happening is like from coming home late, I started coming home every 2-3 days.
Oh no.
Coming home like once a week.
What about your older brothers? Didn't they try to see what's wrong with you?
Yeah, it was very difficult because I had that strong personality, and it's just like I was just all of a
You seem
sudden.
very calm and collective now.
Yeah, I think it's a huge 180 degrees transformation.
Wow.
But
okay.
Alhamdulillah, because what happened is basically one thing that I'm grateful for, and is that going through that that period of using drugs and alcohol, obviously it kind of like took me to a very low rock bottom, right? And obviously through that, I started reflecting more on things. And one thing is that, I don't know, maybe it's because of the drugs or something, but it helped me become more calm. That emotional problem became less. So, but for us Asians, like, it's really, really bad if you drop out of school.
Yes,
And especially like my brother, he was studying medicine, he's now a doctor. Another brother was studying engineering. And for our family, it's very important to do
So what were your older brothers and siblings doing at that time? Like, what were
They were studying, but they didn't know how to handle with it.
So you're the only rebel in the whole family? One rebel, middle child.
Yeah.
Okay. So and were they just continuing with their studies, and were they not trying to tell you like what's wrong with you, Siawash, why are you doing this, etc., etc.?
To be honest, yeah, they were advising me, but I wasn't really listening to it because obviously I always thought like they're trying to control me. So, and the friends that I was hanging out with, they're much older. And to be honest, like later in my life, this actually benefited me because I developed much quicker, became more mature. But the danger here was really is because I had that mindset of, I just need to earn money, and just, I was chasing the wrong thing. I was chasing girls, and it's just all about like, getting the body that I wanted. I was going gym 7 days a week, like.
You're still taking drugs at this time?
Yeah, so
how were you paying for the drugs? How were you?
So my friends were quite well off. So
they'd give it for free.
And this is the scary thing, right? That it became a lifestyle. We woke up with it. We were using throughout the whole day, going gym every day, eating very well, and it was just like the last thing before sleeping. Like, and most people don't know the details of this, but this went on for 4 years, like day and night. Right? It was, for me, it was very difficult to differentiate between my reality, and the other reality, because I was always high. Yeah, so it was very difficult.
You were addicted, basically.
Yeah, I guess I was addicted. Yeah, obviously I didn't see it as that because I was functioning normal, and that's the problem with a lot of drugs, that people can function it.
So what drugs were these? Do you mind saying? Marijuana.
Yeah, marijuana. Yeah.
Okay, so was that like? So didn't that calm you down?
Yeah,
calm the anger?
Yeah, because sometimes people joke about it as a prescription drugs.
Yes.
Right. For me, it did, right, and because I used to get obviously like anger problems.
But isn't in Holland that's legal? That's a legal drug.
It is legal in Holland.
So then obviously for them it's normal, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that, like here it's illegal, so we'll see that as an abnormal thing.
Yeah, we wouldn't understand it, but I saw my gym. My school teachers sometimes use it, so it's
like cigarettes. You just think, okay,
exactly.
I'm just smoking. It's nothing big.
Yeah.
Okay, so that calmed you down, obviously.
it calmed me down to the point that obviously like emotions were kind of gone. And that was obviously like, because I went through that moment of like, like failing school, failing college. I tried to, but it was too late. Things were breaking down. Obviously, the decisions I made were the wrong decisions. And here's the thing that that here I understood how powerful influence is. We'll always hear about people talking about
being influenced.
That you become the average of the 5 people you hang around with.
Yeah.
And I, obviously
You've
looking
lived
back at it, I saw it. I became exactly like them. But alhamdulillah, so what happened is, look, I had a part-time job at the age of 18. And one day I came home and my brothers were playing card games. And I was intrigued. So I said, let me join you guys. And they were playing for €5. I joined, and that opened a different world for me. Because look, I failed education, and obviously I want to go back, but you know what? Like my mind wasn't working anymore properly, and it's very scary. But obviously, when you're in that state, things are very different. You can't read a book. But I got really intrigued by this game and it's called by this game of poker, and I started playing it. I spent more time on it, and before I knew it, I was earning a lot of money with it.
Oh my God.
So it went from
You're like a gangster. Like a gangster
Yeah.
living in Holland. So you're like, that's the best way to describe it. I can't think. No, but then did you become addicted to gambling then? Did that become like a...
well,
so what job did you have as a part-time job?
It was a waiter in a restaurant.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you thought, okay, what's the point of being a waiter? I can make so much money.
But to be honest, it started obviously with replacing my job, but then I started earning more than doctors do.
Wow.
Like it was ridiculous amount
Did
of
your
money.
parents know you were gambling and...
Yeah, because
smoking and
what it is,
drinking?
look, my parents, it was not me, right? I influenced my brothers. We all start playing, right?
For a living.
And they were still doing university. But what happened, because poker, like obviously we understand there's a gambling involved, when obviously in Islam it's considered as haram.
Yes.
But at that time I wasn't practicing. But what it is, like, it's actually considered a sport in many countries. In our family, we are a family of chess players, right? And I believe poker is even more complicated. So it's really a game of skill. And the most successful people in the world that play it are usually young, intelligent people that usually come off from universities or graduates. So we actually spend a lot of time. We invested in books, we invested in coaches, mentors, we invested in very expensive courses. Yeah, and
you went that far with poker?
Yes.
Oh my God. You invested in doing courses in poker of how to win it. Wow. And then it became a living.
Yeah, it became a living. We were playing mainly from the computer, we were playing mainly from home, right? We were not used to going to casinos and stuff. That environment was never for us.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I never liked that environment of gambling. But you know that the main thing is, like, in our family we're very competitive. So me, my little brother, he actually gave up on his medicine university to do this full time.
Oh dear.
Right? And but the environment, look, like obviously from earning a lot of money is one thing, but it took us to another environment. And this environment was even worse than the environment I was in, because all of a sudden I was going to places and we're playing for a lot of money with people that I didn't know. Sometimes
How much money did you make, can I ask? What's the most that you made when you were doing? Did you ever lose?
Yeah, of course. We lose as professionals, but we have bad days, bad weeks. But at the end of the month, we were winning.
Okay.
So, and what was happening basically, look, like, it was from usually earning few hundred an hour. I think at most it was like, for me, 25,000 in a day. And and I think my brother went even higher, but I think for us at that age it was ridiculous, right? But my brother.
What did you do with all that money?
For me, I had, like, obviously big goals, right? At that moment, I was not thinking about investing it, because I thought, what, this is something I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. And like most people, I was obviously, at that moment, I was 21, 20. I wasn't thinking about that. My brother bought a house, which is smart for my parents, and But what happened is like, look, as I was developing more, I started traveling. I traveled over 10, 15 countries. And during my travels, I was away from drugs, right? So what happened is like, I went 1 week traveling and I realized, you know what, I'm not using it.
And
I
I don't
start
need it.
obviously feeling weird, but the thing is, I was performing better. You know, obviously I noticed like slowly my emotions were coming back, but the thing is like, I noticed like, hey, I don't need it. But what happened is like, I went back to the environment and that cycle repeated for 1, 2 years. But then, you know, there came a moment where I was like, you know what, enough's enough. I don't need it anymore.
I can live without it.
Yeah, so what happened is like, I was like, okay, I need to change my environment, right? And while I was playing poker, I met a girl, right? Like, you know, at a young age, I was always obviously chasing girls. But what happens, like, you know, there's a girl I met in London. It's a family, but you know, I fell in love with her at a very young age. But she was very, you know, difficult to get near to because she was a Muslim. And so that's how I kind of got into Islam, because you know, she was always telling me about it, but I wasn't really open-minded to it. But her brother
What were
told.
you doing in London at the time? Was you studying? No, did you come to
I used to travel
just
to.
travel, just have a okay.
I used to travel to Canada from London. So wherever I went to, I used to just come to London to kind of see her for. And but the thing is, you know, her brother told me very clearly, like, if you want to marry her, you need to give up on poker. You need to give up on drugs. You need to learn about Islam. So at first, my intentions weren't really good, but I started learning about that. And I think this is really amazing because looking back, I think a lot of times we do something with the wrong intent, but obviously Allah guides us, you know,
Yes,
so
yes, of course.
guidance comes purely from Allah. And for a lot of people, it's shocking to hear that I wasn't born as a Muslim, because I'm from Afghanistan, you know, but we didn't grow up with any Islam. No, we didn't learn anything. And I guess there's some way of understanding from it, but because of the Taliban, they had a lot of bad memories from it, you know, and this is very common amongst Afghans, is that they kind of like have this bad association with Islam.
So they think Islam is Taliban and stuff.
Yeah, so it's really like they connect that to each other, and they would just want to forget it. They don't want to really come back to that. So, but I educated myself. I thought, you know what, if I'm going to do this, let me learn about it. People start buying me books. And it was amazing. Like, this moment I'll never forget. My cousin tricked me into the mosque.
Okay.
Right? And he was like, listen, I have a project. You need to be the cameraman.
Okay.
And I said, okay, you know what? And he's like, make sure you
in
take...
London?
Yeah, in London, right?
Okay.
I was in a hotel in Kensington. You know, and he's like, make sure you take a shower. And I'm like, of course I take a shower. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, he tricked me into the mosque, and obviously in the middle of the project, there's this prayer, and the Zuhr prayer. And the azan goes off, and all of a sudden everyone's like going towards the prayer, but I've never been in a mosque. I've never prayed, right?
Okay.
And all of a sudden I see everyone stand, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Just come and copy. And at first I was like, okay.
How old were you at that time?
I was 22.
Okay.
But I had no idea what was happening, right?
Really? You really never knew, you weren't educated?
No,
you didn't know that Salah, none of this was a part of your family?
No.
That's amazing.
At the age of 16, 17, I did a project about Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, and Judaism, but
It's amazing to see that.
you know, and so all of a sudden, before I knew it, everyone went to Sajda, and I was like, okay, this is odd, I might just go also. And that moment changed my life, because, you know, my ego was up here, you know, so at that age I had everything materialistically. But when I put my head down, something changed. Something changed inside, and my cousin actually introduced me to people, saying like, this is you know, he's interested in Islam, you know, and everyone started hugging me, buying me gifts, and I
never felt so much love before.
Exactly. I had so many friends, right? But I never felt that. I never had a hug from a guy anyway. So it was very strange, right? But I felt that love, and that really changed something. And you know what, like, my new flat was literally 2 minutes walk from that masjid, right? I found a flat there. I just made the decision, you know, it's like, I'm going to move. My mom was happy because she knew what was going on, right? My friends didn't understand it. Most people didn't understand it. I just moved to London, with just a small bag, and I said the rest I'll leave it. And slowly I brought some stuff. I think, that's a big decision, right? And this is the thing, that I've really, I've seen this with a lot of different people, but this is key, like if you really want to change something, you have to change your environment.
Of course.
Our environment creates, like we're a product of our environment.
Of course, yeah, product of habit and stuff like that. So you moved to London, and then you started going to the mosque more and learning more about Islam, and you were lucky, obviously, at the time in a way, because although because you were financially okay, so you could take that time out to educate yourself. So you feel that was a bit of a blessing as well in disguise.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. It was initially quite difficult because I was alone.
So when did you stop doing poker?
Yeah, this was a difficult part of the journey because I was kind of like
change your income
from being like very open about what I was doing. I became that two personality again, because I want to impress her family, right? And at the same time, I had to do my stuff. Like I want to live, like earn money, right? Like for me, like drugs and alcohol, I cut it straight away, right? Because I always want to give it up, and because of Islam, I had a good reason to do it, right? But what happened is, like, in terms of poker, it continued and continued and continued, right? And usually I used to listen to a lot of music to make me feel calm and relaxed while I was playing, while I was working. But I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just put the Quran on, and there's this Quran with Arabic recitation and English translation. And this is the magical thing, because I just used to put it on random parts of it, and every single time something was going through my mind, something that I was going through personally, I was struggling in life, Quran used to always address that.
MashaAllah.
So there's one day I used to just sit in my room, and I was like, you know what, nobody knows. Let me just earn money, because the rent is so, like living in London is very expensive, right?
Yes.
And then, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was saying that, that Allah is the all-knowing, like, and Allah hates the person that basically says one thing but does another thing.
Dear.
And I was like, wow, that's powerful. And I was like, did this actually happen, right? And every single time something was happening, right? And there were some people, they kind of knew what I went through, and they were inviting me, let's go clubbing, let's do this. And obviously sometimes I slipped up, but I came back again. And the moment, like, what really made the difference again, I put a Quran on, and it was like, is that there's an ayah there that says, there's benefit in alcohol gambling, but the harms are far greater, right? And every time it was just like the Quran was teaching me. And those were the parts that I made a decision, you know what, like either I do it or I don't do it. Because I was always a person of integrity. Even though I went the wrong way, I always had integrity. I was always honest. And so, you know what, I was like, you know what, I'm just fooling myself. I gave it up. I cut it off completely, took all the money out. And this is a blessing, alhamdulillah, because I used to earn a lot of money, but the money went away very quickly.
Because it's not halal, so
yeah. But most people still thought I was doing it. But it came to a point where I lost almost 17 kg,
wow.
Right? And for a lot of people, that's very difficult to imagine, but I used to go gym 6-7 times a day. And obviously, because I had hardly any money, like, that dropped, right? And came to a point where I actually had to borrow money to pay rent. And I had to borrow money from my cousin, from my mom. And, so went through that hardship, but alhamdulillah, that made a big difference.
So how did you, so tell me a bit more, then how did you lift yourself up from that? Then how did you change? Like, obviously having so much money, and then having to go around asking people, what did you do as a living then? Because you obviously want to marry this woman, you had to have a righteous earning and stuff like that. What did you do?
Yeah, so look, one problem in our community, especially with Afghans, is that you have to have this very good degree to marry a girl, right? So you see, I had to go back into education.
Wow, you must have really
And
loved her.
I went,
Doing everything to get her.
yeah, I went back into education. I went back to like, I don't know what's called pre-access or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was horrible because it was too easy for me, but I was still struggling. You know, if that makes sense, like I was still struggling, and I went to work in Tesco, right, for £7 and £7 or £8 an hour, and it was very weird for people to tell me what to do. So it was very difficult for me to go through that.
Did you start getting angry again, or?
Of course, it was very very difficult because I was filling shelves, and I felt like like I'll just be honest, like I used to always tell myself, like a monkey can do this. Like I'm not supposed to do this, but it actually like kind of like built a desire inside of me
To do more.
To do something, because I thought, what, if I can do it with poker, I can do it with something else. So I started reading more about entrepreneurship, about business, right? And so I was working there, still struggling, but alhamdulillah, things were getting better. And one thing that I was doing, look, like for me, Islam became a big part of my life. And the more I learned, the more I realized that the people around me are not educated about Islam. My family wasn't educated, the community wasn't educated. And, so I grew up being like, like asking always a lot of questions. Like I started in the mosque learning from someone, and I asked so many questions that he said, I cannot teach you. So it came to a point where I actually had to make a very difficult decision. And because by making this decision, I almost kind of like cut myself off from the possibility of marrying this girl that I came for. Because what happened is basically
Put your phone. Pause it.
Sorry about that. Didn't realize that. Yeah, sorry.
Turn it off. No, I know where he was. You pause it, right?
Okay. I thought I put it on silent, but Allah. Sorry.
It's on mute now.
Thank you, man.
What were you saying?
Yeah, about his. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, I think I know where I was.
if you start from that question, so repeat that question.
No, he was talking. There was no question. No, so you were saying about the woman, isn't it? So the woman that you were in love with. So you're saying because of that, you were feeling like you would do anything, and you were up to that stage about working, and then you said, then you drove a energy inside you to start working.
Yeah, so it came to a point where I had to make a very difficult
that's
decision, because I felt like my mission was bigger, right? So the more advice I started asking people for advice, right? And the more I looked around me, like there was no one that actually studied Islam. Like when I was studying, I mean like doing undergraduate, right, in our families and communities, right? So I made a decision to go for that, to leave my studies. I was like getting into engineering, so I got into like undergraduate Islamic university, which was tough, but you know what, like I thought if I study Islam 1 hour a day, 1 hour a week, I was loving that moment. Was for me like the highest, like the highlight of my week. So I thought, why don't I study it full time? I knew the virtues of it, obviously like the student of knowledge has a high virtue in Islam, but making that decision was like kind of like giving up on marriage, because you had to be engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer or something, right? But I thought, I have to make this decision. So I made the decision. I moved from West London to East London, and it was very difficult because all of a sudden my costs went high because the course was quite expensive. I was doing 2-3 jobs to support myself, still struggling, lived on noodles for 2 years. So it was just like, noodles in the evening, in the morning, a little bit of cereal.
And doing part-time Tesco job, were you doing that as well?
Part-time Tesco, I was teaching maths once a week. I was private teaching. I was teaching maths 2-3 places until I became better and better at Islamic, Islamic knowledge, and I started teaching that. And within a very short period of time, I went actually to teach in mosques and teach in evening schools. So, and this is amazing, because it just shows that when when you really want something, like Allah will open doors for you.
Of course.
And sometimes one door closes, something better opens for you. You know, and honestly, like that moment when I was studying there was probably the best time of my life. But then what happened is like, you know, something very unexpected happened. I was in Mecca at that time for Umrah, and you know, all of a sudden, basically, you know, I saw a message on Facebook that the girl that I want to marry, my best friend, passed away.
Oh my God.
So this was around 4 years ago. So she passed away, and obviously,
What did she have? How did she have an illness, or did she just pass away suddenly?
yeah, it was just very sudden. So she, like a blood clot, exploded in her brain.
Oh my God.
So it was a big shock to my system, but Alhamdulillah, so you see, looking back at it, every single thing that happened in that 1 year leading up to her death.
How did you cope? Like that must have been a big, like a bomb on your head, because this woman has obviously come into your life and she's molding you into a better person and stuff like that, and then you're having these high expectations of getting married. That must have been heartbreaking.
It was very difficult. But you know what, like I was in the best place I could be, because I was in Umrah. I was away from London. I was actually, when I heard the news, I was just about to go to the Haram, right, to pray and do tawaf, and it was like around midnight in Saudi.
Go?
Sorry?
Did you still go to do the tawaf?
Yeah, I still went there, but obviously it was very emotional. But you know, like actually looking back at it, leading up to her death, Allah was preparing me for 1 year, because there was a bit more
doing the education of Islam and stuff like that. It's obviously teaching you as well that, you know, everything returns to Him, and it just makes you more aware, isn't it, of the situation? Like it makes you calmer. I think the more religious you are, it's easier to accept death, because you know it's a part of it and it's something that has to happen. Because at the end of the day, we belong to Him. He created us.
Exactly.
And no human being belongs to us. So was that in your thought of mind frame as well?
Yeah, definitely. Because my way of thinking was very different. See, when you change the way you see things, you change the meaning of things.
Of course.
So for me, it was very different. Yes. So Alhamdulillah, you know, we made a lot of, you know, we prayed for her. We made a lot of dua for her. But
did you know she had a blood clot before this?
No, nobody knew.
Oh.
But you know, like after, you know, we know it's qadr of Allah.
Yeah.
But one thing is that, you know, I am a firm believer that everything happens for a reason as well. Look, Alhamdulillah, after that, you know, her family changed a lot, you know, so her sisters became more closer into the deen. It had a massive ripple effect. But at the same time, you know, I'm very health conscious, and I've been to seminars about health. And what I've realized is that the way we're eating, you know, like we know the numbers are very, very, you know, the numbers are crazy, you know, so in America, like UK has surpassed America in terms of like obesity and being overweight, you know, so, and especially with Asians, it's a huge problem, you know, so eating meat on a regular basis, I know this is like completely off topic.
That's what I'm about to say.
It's completely off topic.
Maybe you're saying that's related to the blood clot. Is that what you think?
Yeah, and this is causing a lot of problems, because in my family, I can see it's like we had around 10 deaths to cancer. And you know what I realized, like 66% of people die of cancers and heart diseases, and 80% of those diseases are caused by our diet, and especially with the meat. So for me, like that's why I'm like, I always talk about this, you know, because I remember, like I believe things happen for a reason. But you know, Alhamdulillah, so after that, I went through a difficult period, but you know, like you said, my way of thinking was different. So I knew, and this actually, you know, helped me to, you know, work harder, because I knew like whatever I did, and that's the beauty of Islam, right? When you guide someone towards some good, that person, whatever they do, you get all the good of it.
I'll pause you right there. So we're going to go for a short break now, and we'll come back.
Oasis Banqueting Hall, Barking, is East London's first choice for any occasion, offering a range of services and facilities to suit your needs. Whether it's a wedding, birthday, anniversary, or religious service, 180 to 1,000 guests. You can trust us to make your event truly special. Oasis Banqueting Hall, Barking, the perfect choice for your occasion. For bookings, call 0208 594 2222.
Special offer is going on at Salma Designer Abaya House. 20% discount on all our Hajj and Umrah products. 500 gram Ajwa dates are only £10. Come and receive our special offer. Salma Designer Abaya House, 118 Whitechapel Road, London E1 1JE.
Mom, isn't Dad come back home?
When a marriage breaks down, children suffer the most. If you are in this situation, we are here to help.
For Child and Family Matters, Kingdom Solicitors.
Welcome back. Now we're going to continue with Siawash Zahmat's journey. Actually, I want to know what that means. What does Siawash Zahmat mean?
Okay, Zahmat means to strive, to do effort.
Okay.
Siawash doesn't really have a meaning. It's more from a story like Romeo and Juliet.
Ah.
I'm kind of like the Persian Romeo.
Well, that happened in your life anyway, so more or less.
Yeah.
So you're at the point where you said, you're talking about health and stuff like that. But I want to go back to when you said you heard the news, you continued to pray. What happened next?
Okay, so basically, my journey in Saudi was supposed to be like 10 days. I think we came back earlier for the funeral. And obviously, that's also when the reality kind of hit, right? Because I was back in London, and normally I was every day in touch with her, so it wasn't there anymore. But for me, like, as guys, we're not always like the kind of person that talks about it often. So I just really kind of moved on. I started working harder. I was studying, working, so I was just kind of keeping myself busy. But every now and then there was a day that it reminded me of her. And
bereavement is quite a hard thing to get over. So.
Yeah, it was quite difficult, to be honest. But alhamdulillah, I had the right people around me. I had people around me that kept me grounded. And look, studying the life of the Prophet ﷺ gave me a different perception. And this is something that I'm really... You see, we go through a lot of hardships. We all go through hardships, right? And, we know that, we all will get tested. Nobody's going to go to Jannah without getting tested. But putting things into perception, it just changes your, your meaning of it, your understanding of things. So looking at the Prophet ﷺ, he lost his wife, he lost his daughters, he lost his sons, he lost his parents at a young age. For me, that put things, in a completely different perspective. And I was like, what, alhamdulillah, I'm going through this, but it's about how I respond. As Muslims, it's so important that, we respond on the moment of, conflict. We have to respond with sabr and in the right way. Not like go mental and then a few days later say it was meant to be. It's really about the moment of hardship. So alhamdulillah, I was developing a lot, as a Muslim, I was learning a lot. My character was changing a lot, and in a good way, alhamdulillah. So what did you? Is that when you started? Was you struggling with your emotions? Because I think that's when you started to get coaching, didn't you? Yeah, that's a bit further down the line. So what happens, like, as I love my studies, but the thing is, like, I was constantly, like, as a lot of Muslims, I developed this mindset of it's okay to be poor. I was struggling, but I knew how to make a lot of money. But what happened is, like, because of a lot of the people I surrounded myself with, I had this idea of, like, okay, you know what? It's okay to be poor. More poor people go to Jannah. Yeah. Like, it was this bad mentality. Because, yes, this life is temporary, but we have to aim for the best. We always make that dua, like every single person makes that dua, like Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina azaban nar. It's like we say first dunya. That's the reason why Allah mentions dunya first. Like, we have a duty and responsibility in this life. Yes, of course. And so one of the things that my teacher said in the assembly, the final assembly of my second year, that basically kind of like gave me the permission to leave and to follow my dreams. Because he said something and that stuck with me. And he said, look, on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask you about your potential. Like Allah has given us all a certain potential, and it's about what you do with it. You know, and He gave us a story, and I never forget that story. It's about a man that became a successful businessman. He made millions, but he came to my teacher, you know, it's a very well-known scholar, and he said, look, I'm going to stop doing business. I'm just going to focus on my family, focus on my deen. I'm going to learn Quran. And if you look at it, you will say, mashallah, that's so good, right?
Yeah.
But my teacher just really told him off badly. Why? Because he said, look, you've been given a certain potential, but you decide that you stop here because your family is okay for the rest of their lives. But what about your community? What about the rest of the ummah, right?
Allah's going to ask you about that as well.
Exactly. So we all have a certain responsibility. You know, you can be a good Muslim and still pray 5 times a day and, you know, do your duties towards your family, towards your deen, towards your community. So that for me really switched something, because I always, you know, I was spending a lot of time alone, and
That motivate you to work hard.
Yeah, not just work hard. You know, I was like, you know what, like, I'm giving money to charity, but instead of giving money to charity, why don't I build a charity? Instead of giving money to mosques, why don't I build mosques? Instead of sponsoring one orphan, why don't I build orphanages? And what it is, look, you don't read often about this, but there are people around the world. This one person passed away, and I read his biography, and he built dozens of mosques and orphanages around the world. Why? Because he became a multimillionaire, right? And alhamdulillah, I understood that, you know what, it's okay to do this as a Muslim. So when I start studying more lives of the Sahaba, I understood that, you know what, there were millionaires amongst them. But the thing is like, we have that poverty mindset. It's a huge problem. So I start studying. Look, this is one thing with me, right? Like, one of my early mentors, his name is Jim Rohn. He's passed away now, right? I've never met him, but like, I listened to him countless of hours, right? One of the things he said, look, learning is opens the doors to everything.
Of course.
Right?
Even the Prophet ﷺ said that. Educate yourself until you die.
Exactly. And this is a huge problem in the Ummah right now, right? It's a huge problem. So one thing I realized is that, you know, it's not really about the opportunities around, it's about me. You know, everyone wants the secret to success. Everyone wants to know kind of like what makes the difference, right? To become really successful in this life and in the next. It's all about you. It's all about, you know, you developing yourself as a person. So I understood that, like, if I want to have more in my life, I have to become more. You know, so I started working on myself. There was days that I had the choice to buy some food or buy a book. I always bought a book. I always went for that because I thought, you know what, like, if I invest in myself, you know, things will change. And alhamdulillah, Allah always provided me with food. You know, I used to live with a few Bengali friends, and we lived in this basement with no windows, and there's this mouse always running around.
Oh my God.
And, you know, and I had this little space, and it's just like some books here, some books there. And I never told my mom this, right?
Were you depressed or?
No, alhamdulillah, it's like, it was kind of like, it was a shock because nobody knew this. Like, my parents didn't know, right? So imagine going from 5-star hotels, luxury, to living in a place like this. So it was, but alhamdulillah, it kind of like brought me down to earth. It humbled me. But at the same time, I was developing myself. And I thought, you know what? Everything is possible. You know, so I already started visioning myself in a different place. And I can see myself, you know, like, I can already see what's happening in the next 5 years. And this is not some magic voodoo or something, but, you know, like, I believe that if you want to go somewhere, you have to see it before you go. And this is something that successful people do all the time. They vision it. You know, Tiger Woods, he always talks about this, like, before he hits the ball, he already knows how...
Cybernetics.
He knows, yeah, it's like that, right? He knows exactly how he holds the stick. He knows exactly how he hits it. He knows exactly the journey of the ball and where it lands.
There's even saying that. Have you read Dr. Wayne Dyer's books?
I've heard about him. Yeah.
Have you not read his books?
No.
Read them. He talks about how he was hitting a tennis ball and he was very far from it, and then he got it, and everybody's like looking at him and goes, "What did you do?" He said, "Oh, I stopped time." He goes, "I actually imagined myself." He goes, "You can actually stop time." I was like, "No, you can't." No, but obviously the way he explains it is, he goes, time is just an illusion. So when he just thought about it stopping in the air, it actually stopped for him. He said he actually felt at that time that the tennis ball actually stopped for him to hit it. So like you say, and then he aimed it, and then he won that shot. So like you said, it's very like down to your perception and your vision and the way you see things. So when did you start seeing a coach? So you had these books, you're living in the cellar, eating books, so bookworm literally. And then what did you do? Like, when did you start seeing a coach? You said, I think you remember you saying you went
it came to a point that, you know, I had a conversation with one of my teachers, and he's like, "Look, you're so much behind with your payment." And I was like, you know what? So
were you still working in Tesco at this time?
I was working part-time in Tesco. So what happened, I got introduced into network marketing. Don't know if you've heard of it.
Which what?
So, and alhamdulillah, it was good because it brought me more, it opened more doors into personal development and people that were big dreamers. I think, and again, coming back to that, it's so essential to surround yourself with people that are either better than you or that have the similar dreams. Because my family and friends, most of my friends, they just were happy with where they are. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, for me, it's not about, I don't judge people, right?
But that's just not you.
Exactly. I'd rather be alone than being with company that takes me down. And there's a hadith about this, right? That it's better to be with good company than being alone. But it's better to be alone than being with bad company, right? So I really implemented this. So I was just constantly listening to stuff. And when I got introduced in network marketing, I saw the potential. So I started hanging around with actual millionaires, right? And they were always telling me how they went from, you know, from here to there.
From zero to here,
Yeah. And so the thing is with this, it was very different than poker, right? I wasn't a people's person. Like, I'm very, like, I cannot go to people and just approach them and, you know, pitch to them, present to them. So that was very difficult for me. But what was happening, people always used to joke around it. They're like, listen, when you read books, you're not going to become successful. But, you know, like, I was, and this is one thing, like, it's good to read, but you have to get out of your comfort zone.
And you have to apply what you're reading.
Exactly. You know, like, so many people have said it, from Bruce Lee to...
Yeah, there's no point reading if you're not going to apply it to your life.
You know, it's all about implementation.
Yes.
And we live in a time where knowledge is available for everyone. You know, like, you can buy books, but even when I didn't have money, sometimes I had this little iPad.
Or library.
Yeah, I had this little iPad. I was, you know, gifted by my brother, and I had hundreds of books on it. So I was just downloading books. But here it is, like, implementation is key, right? But as I was going along, like, I left my studies, I left Tesco's, because I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go for it. I'm going to burn the bridges. I'm going to go full-time into entrepreneurship.
Okay.
But it didn't go well.
Really? What happened?
You know, and this is something that I always want to make clear to people, because a lot of people don't tell this part. For 1 year, I was broke. I went into a huge debt.
Oh my God.
And it came to a point where I was like, okay, I need to go back to Tesco. I need to go back to a job. I started working in a bagel shop for 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week.
Oh my God.
Right? And it was really bad. And initially I was like, no, I don't want to work in the kitchen, all this stuff. Like, I had to start cleaning, like, really dirty stuff, right? But what I did, I was, okay, I'm happy in the kitchen because I can put my headphones in and listen to a book. So as I was working, I was educating myself. I used to travel 1 hour to get to work, 1 hour.
Did you burn any bagels?
Sorry?
Did you ruin any bagels doing that?
Yeah, I ruined a lot of stuff because my focus wasn't there, right? I didn't want to be there. So I was there for 3-4 months, you know, but what really actually
hit you?
Yeah, what really hit me is this, right? Look, sometimes the decisions we make takes us to something, but, you know, at the end of the day, we are in control. You know, I was stuck there, and I was trying to get out of there while I was in that job. But you know what? Sometimes you have to go through those struggles. You have to admit that, you know what? You know, like, I've tried it, but it didn't work, you know? So I actually said to my uncle, you know what? Like, I'm struggling. I moved in with my uncle, which is obviously, like, very bad. Like at my age, right, it was quite bad. And it went even to a point where I became homeless for like a few days. Nobody knows this. I slept in the office.
Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah.
This is around like one year and 2 months, 3 months ago. Nobody actually knows this, right? So
Now everybody's gonna know.
I slept in the office, and then I got
Wow.
fired because obviously he saw my stuff there. And then I moved back home to Holland for 2 months, which was like, you know, very bad, because at the age of 27, moving back with your parents, you know, it kind of like is bad, because people were like, oh, you know what, you went to London, you failed, and you went back, right? But here's the thing, you know, like, here's the thing that really made a difference. I always read about successful people, and they were like, look, failing is part of the journey, you know?
Yeah, you have to fail, because if you don't fail, how are you going to learn?
Exactly.
The thing is, if you're just going to keep going from high, and you're not going to, you know, you're just going to think, yeah, this is easy, whatever, and then you're not going to appreciate what you have, really. So you have to, and to be honest, failing is, I think, is the fun part of everything, because that molds you into a better person. So
yeah,
so it prepares you for the next challenge, really.
Definitely. And I don't encourage people to do it the way I did.
And of course, don't
like,
sleep in office.
You know, right now I work with a lot of clients, right? And the way I do things, like I advise, like obviously I've learned from my lessons. Yes, you have to go through struggles, but you know, you can make a good transition from full-time job to entrepreneurship, to a full-time business owner, to a full-time, you know, being full-time self-employed. But here's the thing, like a lot of times people have this idea of like, oh, I have to burn the bridge, you know, because you don't need to burn the bridges. You don't need to like go all in, right? Because to really become successful in business, you need to develop skills. You need to develop yourself.
Of course, yeah.
You need to, you know, learn. It's all about experience, right? And you might fail, but it doesn't mean you need to give up, right? So a lot of people have that, and that's what kind of like freezes a lot of people to never leave that job, because they think, oh, you know what, I have to go homeless, I have to go broke, I have to go without food
But you don't advise that, obviously.
No, of course.
Because you've seen the worst side of it.
So I listen to the wrong people sometimes, and that's kind of my personality as well. You know, like I want to go for it. And I believed I had the potential, but I wasn't taking enough action, you know.
So how did you, so you went to Holland, then you came back again?
Yeah.
What made you come back? How did you clear all your debt, will be my next
To be honest,
question.
like one of the reasons is basically, just before going to Holland, I met someone in one of the schools I was teaching. I met this Bengali sister, basically. And, you know, we were interested kind of like in marrying each other, right? I asked one of my teachers about her family, and it was all good. But, you know, my mom was like, no, it's not going to happen.
Because she's Bengali.
You know, she's a different skin color. She's like, you know, like she's from a different country. And her parents were like, no way this is going to happen. So one of the things that actually pulled me back to UK is her. But another thing is like, while I was in Holland, I was always reading. Okay. And I knew that this is the place I want to live, right? Like for me, look, one thing is that I understood is like, the only moment you really fail is when you give up. For me, it was all part of the process. Of course, I made some decisions which were not good, you know, and sometimes this is our ego, right? Like I always had family around. I didn't need to go homeless, you know, but sometimes, you know,
You're lucky.
Yeah, sometimes we do things that are not really smart.
So you wanted to come back to London because of this woman again. So many women bring you to London. Okay.
Yeah. But alhamdulillah, I came back to London, started a job again. And this is the moment, you know, where I said, you know what, like, there's something missing. And somehow I heard about this guy, and I joined one of his programs, right? Because I couldn't afford his expensive programs. I joined one of his cheaper products. It's like a £21 program, 21 days. And something changed inside me, and this is funny, right? Right? When I start, just before this, I got married, yeah? And this is really...
you married the Bengali woman?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got her.
Yeah, so what actually...
Did your mom disapprove, or...?
Yeah, so This is obviously like, this was another very like long journey to get to that point. It took us 2.5 years.
Oh wow, okay.
It took us 2.5 years to get to that point. And you know what it was? We always talked about marrying, but deep inside, I didn't believe it was possible. You know, and coming back to that visualization, you know, like I used to do every morning, I used to think about my business, how successful I would become. And one day I was thinking about like, okay, you know what? Let me visualize something else. So I actually saw myself marrying her, and a few weeks later, the nikah was done.
Wow.
Yeah, and we get married. We moved in together. We got our own place, and this happened. You know, we were planning for the walima, like we were planning for the walima. So there's a lot of costs involved, right? And I met this guy, and I went to work with him.
You're thinking, should I pay for the walima or should I pay for the course?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to put some facts there, like it costed me like 3 times more than my monthly income, right? And even both of us working full time, we were struggling. But deep inside, I felt
you need to do this.
You know, I always follow my intuition. And I think it's really important, you know, at times to do that, but not always, right? Sometimes it might lead you to homelessness.
Yeah.
So, but alhamdulillah, I made a decision, and you know, that made a big difference. And while I was working with him, I saw something magical happen. Because I initially started working with him to become successful in my business. But I saw different things happen. And you know what? I was like, I want to do the same thing as you do. You know, and so as he was working with me, you know, I decided to be a coach, to become a life coach. You know, to work with people and help them overcome the same things that I went through. And you know, one of the key things, and I say this all the time to my clients, I say this to my aunties, uncles, one of the things that made such a huge impact on me is that he kept saying to me, like, I believe in you. You know, we go through life, we go through stuff, and we know deep inside that we can do things, but we don't believe it. You know, and when we don't believe it, usually, you know, that belief would kind of like reflect our reality. Because he always kept saying to me, you see, like, I love my dad, but my dad, you know, because of language barriers, we were never very close. I didn't have that figure that was telling me, you can do it, I believe in you. And that made a huge difference to me. You know, I think one of the most powerful things that you can say to a person is this, I believe in you. And you say it from the heart, it can just change a person.
I have a post from my wall. When I wake up every morning, it's quote, if you believe in yourself, anything is possible. So
definitely.
And that's a nice reminder in the morning when I'm in a bad mood.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, so then you started your own coaching. Now, mashallah, you are a high performance coach. Is this what you do full time now?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, yeah.
And you've also started a Muslim academy, Muslim coaching academy. Tell me a bit about that. That's something that you just recently started.
Yeah, so as I kind of like began coaching more and more, I realized that there are some places where we can learn, right? But a lot of the places were in America. In the UK itself, we have a few coaches that are very good, but there's not a specific school or academy. And one of the things is, look, and this is really key, like, I don't know if you've heard of Tony Robbins.
Yes, of course, yes.
I've been to his events. Like, I love the guy and what he does, but all these events that I start going to...
Did you go to his event?
Yeah, I went to his event. So all these events that I went to, I kind of had to like... You see, I'm a man of strong principles. And for me, my deen is the most important thing. But, you know, all these events were like mixed with men and women. And sometimes you couldn't avoid other people hugging you. Yeah. Right? It's just like, give people high fives and hug 3 people around you. And all of a sudden, I was in the middle of 3 women and I'm just getting hugged, right? It's very uncomfortable.
Okay.
And I'm the kind of person that always goes, you know, to my wife and I'm like, listen, this happened. How do I avoid this, right?
Just go around hugging men. Why are you hugging the women?
Yeah, so one of the things...
To say, I'm a Muslim, I can't, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just do
but,
that.
You know, a lot of my
and also
friends...
there's lots of music and it's like, you know, I've got a friend who recently
yeah.
went there and he was saying the same thing. It's like a bit like a rave. It's like
a
rave because people are jumping up and down dancing. Well, obviously, it's just to impact you and energize you. Did you walk on the coal of fire as well?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Oh, how was that?
It was very, very scary. I don't want to use any bad words, but it was very scary.
Really?
But alhamdulillah, I did it, and that again, I just proved that anything is possible.
Did you burn your feet?
No, I didn't. Burn my
Okay, okay.
You know, and for those that don't know, that's like 1200 degrees,
Yeah.
hot coal, like burning coal, right?
Yeah,
We
Tony
walk-
Robbins makes you run across it.
Yeah,
Hopefully he should be on my show one day. Let's see.
it's possible. Why not?
Yeah, of course. And actually, he got in touch with me actually, which is quite spectacular. His team got in touch with me because they wanted to put their products on my blog site. So yeah, so I'm in partnership with them as well. So like, there's like on my blog. So that was quite
That's really
touch.
good.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
It would be nice to be recognized.
But, you know, look, like, and I don't just say this because I'm not a person that just will talk a lot.
Yes, you want
But
to show it.
you know, inshallah, I'll be bigger than him. You know, like my goal is to
You got competition,
become
mate.
a
I'm on that.
master of my you know of my craft. And this is one of the things that I see around us. You know, and there was a problem with myself as well. You know, I always jumped from one thing to another thing. You see, most people want financial freedom, but they don't know specifically what vehicle they're gonna use, right? So I decided like it's gonna be coaching, you know, and obviously speaking is an opportunity to impact more people, but it's gonna be coaching, right? And inshallah, so my goal is to become one of the best,
Inshallah.
you know, and this is one of the reasons, you know, I met a few people that had a similar vision, and you know, I shared my vision with them. And then we came with the idea of the Muslim Coaching Academy, because there's nothing like it in the world. Alhamdulillah, there are Muslim coaches that are doing quite well.
But don't you feel that's gonna deprive you of like non-Muslims? Well, can non-Muslims join it as well, or?
Yeah, so non-Muslims can join it, but we are very like.
Is it going to be religiously based as well?
No, we won't basically preach Islam, but we will implement some of the teachings of Islam.
Okay.
But the key thing I think is here is like having some boundaries, so they won't be like dancing, they won't be hugging, you know, maybe we will have some separation.
Yeah.
I think, and this is really important, so Muslims can actually, you know, say, look, I can become, you know, a coach and I can be part of this academy, but I don't need to kind of like, you know, like give up on certain things.
Yeah.
Because our deen is the most important thing, and we don't want people to, like, I went to these events and I came home and I felt guilty that I had to do these things, right?
Yeah, you don't want to go home
And
with that.
sometimes it's like, it's okay, but, you know, look, like, our religion protects us. You know, every rule that's in place is there for a reason. There's wisdom behind it. You know, so, you know, obviously bringing that, my intention is obviously to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is, I think this is really important. So, alhamdulillah, I work privately with a lot of non-Muslims, right? And that door will always be open to have private clients. But even with the Muslim Coaching Academy, it's there, but it's not there just, you know, we will open the doors for non-Muslims, but we're very, very selective with who we work with. You know, the values and the ethics that we want is very important, especially if we kind of like have people graduating from our academy.
Okay. Well, it's been lovely talking to you. And before we normally leave, I ask each and every guest, what is the advice that you would give to the viewers right now that they could start applying straight away? So if you want to look at the camera and look at the viewers actually and give them your opinion and advice.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, so one thing is that we all want to, you know, we all want to have better health. We all want to improve our finances, our relationships. Now, it's important to have a quality life, but you know, for you to become successful in life, you know, like you have to focus on one thing. And this sounds really horrible, and this doesn't make maybe sense to some people, but if you focus on one thing and really, you know, master that one thing. And mastering doesn't mean, you know, it's going to happen overnight. It's not going to come to you by just reading 1 or 2 books. You know, there's a book by Malcolm Gladwell, and he says, look, it takes around 10,000 hours to really master something. If you would spend 4 hours a day, that takes you around 7 years, right? So for me, the one advice that I give to people is choose one thing and make that your one thing. So every single day when you wake up, you want to ask yourself, what is the one thing that I can do to get me close to my goals? what's the one thing that I want to achieve in 5 years? What's the one thing that I want to be known for? You know, and you know, just be yourself. And this is really key, like be you. You know, you work towards becoming the better version of yourself, but be yourself. You don't need to be someone else. There's, you know, everyone else is taken, and that's the beautiful thing about it. When you are yourself, when you have that integrity and authenticity, that's when you show your true self, and that will come out. So, yeah, that's my advice is like really be and do one thing, and just work on yourself.
MashaAllah, thank you. Well, thank you for watching, and until next time, I hope you're going to go home now and do the one thing that Siawash has said and focus on that. And actually, he's right. One focus, one dream, it takes you many places. If you're going to have your mind lots of places, you're not going to get wherever you want to be. Thank you for watching, and until next time on the Life Show with Musart.